Take two, baby. It's a couple hours later, the headache's gone. No one even knows what happened and what I'm saying. But we have to talk about this because we don't have a lot of time. I guess there's going to be a midget coming over or something. I don't fucking know. No. Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you this. But no, there's going to be the topic of mankind's I can't think of how to say that. Mankind's like place in the world, maybe, or mankind's like his alignment in the world. You know, is how they view themselves in the world. So as I talked about before, do these have cool pockets? Not really. Damn it. As I talked about before, mankind is the secondary being. This is recording. Yeah, okay. They're the secondary being within the world of Ywander. Right? Because as it's been stated before, the Titans created the Anaku, and then it was a Titan named Dove who created the Forgotten People. We'll kind of get more to the Forgotten People eventually, because I'm just learning about them. But what I know is it's the Aeons, the Aeonic fucking beings, who created the Aeonic peoples, right? And that would be, like I said, Dubois and the Valakmir and the Clan people up north and the Wulandi and, you know, the races of Oapake. And those are the Aeonic people I talked about in the last video. But to zoom in even more on mankind. Now, mankind is generally looked at as Oapake's people, the Forgotten King's children. That would be Adrana, Tantorum, and the South. The South as a whole, whether it's the Dacians, the Erazium, I almost called them the Etruscans, but I know that's not it. And apparently they're called the Ronic people from Quran. Erazium and fucking begins with an E as well. Sarceans. Those people are all the umbrella of mankind. The South, like I said, the Dacians, Sarceans, Erazium, and the Ronic people, those are subcultures that came from Tantoric people, much the same as Adrana came from the Tantoric folk. Now, Tantorum, as it says in the name, are the people of Tan. So you think of the South and you think of Adrana as just breaking off. You know, think of it as what America and Australia is to Britain, what Canada is to Britain. You know what I mean? Like at one point, colonies were set up there under the British Empire, but then they said, well, we're not gonna do that anymore. We're gonna be independent. It's very same. So it's a Denian person is not much different than someone from Tantorum. Besides maybe the accent changed a bit. You know, because the divide between Adrana and Tantorum really happened after Odysseus, which would have been in the 450s. Yeah, the 450s, and the year now is 1647. So we're talking, oh, I don't even know, what is that, 1,000 years or something? Now, yeah, because like, you know, take the 1,000 away, it's close. The South is not much different than that. They just, Tantorum was in the South longer until about, I don't remember what we agreed upon, I think like the 1300s or so. 1313 maybe. Let me see what it says here. They enter the South, re-enter in 1350, they leave in 1608, so it was relatively recent that they don't really consider themselves Southerners unless you're a Dacian, of course. Now, long-winded, but it's to be known. Now, mankind's placement in the world. In a lot of fantasy, there's always this kind of divide between the elves and man. the the dwarves and elves or whatever. Like there's racial tension here. Now, obviously, when it comes to mankind and the Anakume, very similar kind of tensions. Though it was not the fault of the Aeonic people, they happen to take a lot of the blame for the demise, well, the happening demise of the Anaku. So, I mean, it's just a racially tense kind of thing going on there. Now, it doesn't really, in my mind, it doesn't really mirror a whole lot of like, well, I sat down and I thought about 1950s and, you know, like, I didn't really do that. In my mind, it's like, it's essentially me saying, like, you're blaming the people that have nothing to do with it, is what the racial tension is in the story. And you see it a lot in real life, so I wouldn't have said that I made it on purpose, like, I wasn't making a statement, it's just how I view it, and so it's going to kind of become it. You know, a lot of things happen that way, you know. Like when Tolkien talks about allegory, he doesn't really like it. Sure, you know, but what you view is what you write, and what you write becomes an allegory, essentially. It kind of does. Or, you know, a metaphor or whatever else. Now, there is that divide between Anaku and Aeonic people. Not so much between the Anaku and the other Aeon races, more so just purely mankind. Just because they are the children of the Forgotten King, the one person who is kind of shouldering the blame of the Anaku demise. Now, I think I've said it before that the Anaku are fading from the world. They are becoming irrelevant, while their gods have become irrelevant. So have the Anaku people, and, you know, the cases of feral Anaku are rising. Their prolonged lives are shortening. There's not a whole lot of, like, you know, in this era, there's not a statistical fucking, we sat down, we made a fucking stat and showed you by this year. The scholars of Anaku culture all seem to branch this kind of fading of the world, at least for the Anaku, at the feet of mankind. So essentially it's just like this issue of our, you know, demise is because of mankind. Now it is because of the Forgotten King. There probably are some scholars, there are some people of higher state that would say, you know, not necessarily, like for instance in Adenian culture, Judan-Adin, we're not going to sit here and say like it's his fault, but there are certain Anaku who might be a little bit more rash like that. Thus is where you would see like the Serpentine Order, for instance. It is a kind of political group that was formed, and it's shared between the two highest Anaku cultures, which are the Lyrians and the Etrovians. Now, anyway, mankind will shoulder that, but how does mankind see themselves within the world? Like, are we, like, let's be honest, like, if we're in the world, we're mankind. So how does mankind view himself in the world? Well, there's a great importance. We were created by the hand of God, the hand of the king, the hand of Owapake. So there's some sort of divinity within that, and honestly, I would imagine throughout the cultures of mankind, you would see a, you know, I wouldn't call it a supremacy necessarily, but definitely an understanding of there are higher races of people. There is a understanding that there are some races of beings that are chosen over others. I imagine that those kind of arguments are argued about just as much as the idea that, you know, in scholarly circles of like, what fate is, and I would imagine the strength of the Aeonic races. Well, I mean, clearly the peoples of the Aeonic beings must be stronger, and you see a lot of that kind of mindset when it comes to like Tantorum, probably certain aspects of Adrana as well. I don't necessarily know about the South, you know, and how they view it. I mean, it generally sounds like the South is kind of wanting everything to stay as it does, and seeing that there is a cycle of life, and that needs to be harnessed and kind of not harnessed. I'm sorry, like protected in some sense. So to me, that kind of says that there is some sort of, not a supremacy, but there probably might be. You know, whereas I imagine in Tantorum's strength and might kind of are the prevailing factors of what is a culture. In the South, it seems like to keep the culture, I mean, you got to remember they come from that mindset, much like Adrana does. But I don't think, you know, you would have to say, what does the land do to the people? This is something that I would definitely need to talk about with the guys, because I don't want to like put words in their mouth, you know, about their peoples. But in my mind, that's just kind of how I view it. Now, I can go to Adrana and say, within the scholarly circles, in the study of their in the chantry, it's considered, that's what it's called. It's called the Druid's Chantry, which is a religion of the Edenian people. There is the understanding of this amongst the scholarly society that the Aeonic people were able to stop a threat that was the Titans. And this might not be shared amongst the common folk. You know, the common folk, you just say, you know, land of the free, home of the brave, and they'll be like, all right, I'm in. Amongst the higher society, there's got to be that study, and I read that report somewhere, it's one of these, about the understanding of like what the Titans truly were doing, and how it wasn't necessarily good for mankind. I really don't remember which one it was. It wasn't that. Keepers who were aiding in mankind's ascent are those who came from another realm. They guided us until they disappeared from history some time ago. It was said their intervention was because of a great disturbance that was felt throughout the circle, and it was they who were tested to cure the problem. Eventually, in time, they gave man the understanding of what would become Bajorg's Chantry. Now, these keepers, who are they exactly? I don't know. To which it was said that to be named after the keeper master. It was originally meant to serve as an honor of his memory. He was said to have drifted into the circle, or beyond it, as it was said, beyond even the realm of creation. It was pure ascension beyond even what man could not achieve, the circle. For you see, where man inhabits is life, and in life is everything his mind can and cannot grasp. This place lies outside of the circle. See if I can get to a point here. Life only connects to the astral realm, a sort of crossroads to the circle. Remember, the circle is the universe. They would call the circle, their faith is based on the circle. The circle is our universe. Unfathomable to their minds, but there is some sort of something they call the circle there, and that follows the idea of the creation being at its center, putting everything where it is, and it's spinning like a spiral. So it's just a visual concept for them. Much like in Christianity, in Catholicism, a lot of it, describing God as this, well, you know, perfect being, this thing that is indescribably perfect, to make sure that we don't have the wrong words and we don't try to imagine something that's unimaginable, right? It's to train the mind. Much the same here when it comes to calling it the circle. It's like the unimaginable understanding that ever could be. I mean, even with the Aevans doing what they're doing, it's totally impossible to imagine what it could be. There have been Aevans that traversed within this place, and what they brought back was knowledge that was indescribable. But to what end? You know what I mean? Like, we can't just say what it is. We don't know what it is. And because of that, there is a faith understanding within this. Life only connects to the astral realm, a sort of crossroads to the circle, a place that lies between with endless possibilities. It was said to have been created by the Titans long ago, where Theus and his council held during the creation of the world. So they're saying the word, like within the understanding, this will be a scholarly document about the circle and all that stuff, which you can already see that mankind has, I wouldn't say adopted, but accepted the fact that the Titans truly did create this place. I mean, for a long time, I'm sure there was some disagreements, because that story, which I do have somewhere, is the Anaku creation myth. Now, that chronicles the story of the Titans and Theus and his chosen followers creating the world. What mankind happens to do is see beyond that with the understanding that was passed down from the forgotten people to Opake, as well as from Opake to his chosen people about the truth of the Titans. That understanding, again, not necessarily given to the average folk. Just something that's passed around amongst, like, you know, you're not going to just tell the regular fucking people like us, well, here's what we think is what God is. Like, you know, it's not something that matters to us. What matters to us is to maintain our do this, do that, be the good worker, be the workforce, you are that. Now, it was later discovered just how the Titans made this realm, for the inner working has become clear after work was completed in Erdrick's Chanchu with the arm of the scholars. So they're just basically saying, like, this has kind of become known within our realm. Our understanding of the passage of time is not of the ticking of a clock, but rather what exists in the mind. For when the old scholars talked of we existing in the mind of the Creator, in some ways they were not wrong. For when we discovered influence from the other realms, this was where the understanding of the circle clicked in our most prestigious minds. For we are a circle that lies outside another, and what guides our spin is known as the chains of time. It is the driving force that seeks the imprint that was laid upon the chains of time to pass over our realm of life. We find residual stamps of events coming back to us, to which our minds decipher unknowingly, and it is put into the consciousness, our consciousness. This is why time is in the mind, is a quote, has been adopted by the scholars. At any rate, there are 2 points that time passes over. So it's kind of getting into the idea of what time is and magic and all that stuff. The reasoning of reading this would be to show that mankind is starting to ascend and starting to, with their minds, realize what's truly going on. They have grasped this place is created by Titans and Theus and Dove. But they're starting to see that there's more to it, like what lies beyond it. The realm that they say they live in, I've showed the picture before of, I don't know how easy that would be to see, but in the middle is this big circle, small circle, small circle. This is life. Here's the chains of time going around it. Here is the past and the present. In the future, I'm sorry. They're saying that that is the eye of the Creator. We live in the eye of the Creator. So at the center of this point, it looks like a fucking eye. Now, that is the way that they would grasp that is to understand that, I mean, just that statement alone, mankind and the life of man is in the eye of the Creator. The point from which we understand subjectivity, and through subjectivity, the Creator is within each of us, viewing the world through our lenses and with our minds. To say that we are in the eye of the Creator is our lives are at that point. The past and present, damn it, I keep saying present. The past and the future are tools of understanding, to discern a kind of a situation of like what life is. Like there was a time that had happened and is done, and there is a time that will happen in the future, and we do not foresee how it can. Through clairvoyance. They're grasping that as a concept upon mankind. Now, keep in mind this is the Adurix Chantry kind of document, so you begin to see the importance of mankind within the world. No longer would they view themselves as the mistake the Inaku would say that they are. They would say that they're a divine being. They're a divine race of people chosen by Creator for a certain purpose in the world. Now, this document probably was done 200-300 years ago within the story, from 1647. It's probably done in the 1300s. Or even farther back than that, because there's something going on in the Adurix Chantry that has kind of devolved the process. Now, mankind is under the great spell just like everyone else is. But their view in the world is much more divine than that. The way that mankind chooses to see themselves within the realm of life is a higher race of people than the Inaku. I've heard concepts of how people would describe the Inaku in the South as like organic automatons. It's just like saying they just kind of are like trees. Now, a lot of people in Tantorum have been geared to seeing the Inaku as an enemy, as a threat. Now, you could also kind of see that in the South, though that was within its creation, is the understanding that the Inaku may not be threats. That's what made the South the South. But the Southern mind, the mind of the Tantoric people, the Tantoric mindset, definitely sees Inaku as lesser beings. After all, the Titans that created them were not strong enough to save them. I mean, plain and simple right there. It's just like, well, then you weren't chosen. You were not important. The scholarly understanding of the Inaku is something to be looked at under a microscope. Not something that needs to be, worshipped. Something that needs to be cherished, something that needs to be understood at a level of spiritual level, I should say. You'll see that kind of understanding through mankind, especially through Tantorum. Tantorum would study their enemy more as they would study a new disease that would cause sickness and kill a lot of people. A lot of studying within the Tantoric mindset is a defensive mechanism. So how man would view himself in the world, for instance, would mean Tantoric mind, Adenian, and Southern would all view themselves, let's be honest, generally as higher than the Inaku people. The Inaku are kind of a secondary citizen. Though they are the first. They are the first beings in the world. There is a might is right, in that understanding. You weren't strong enough to defend yourself here, so. I do know that there are mindsets of that kind of strength. Might is right. But I also know that there's mindsets of kind of destiny, which kind of coincide with that, might is right, but like an Adenian mindset, maybe we were put afterward to solve something. We were given a power, one that was an Inaku power. It's now in the control of mankind. I was like, God, no. This would give us the power to think of how humans are with science in our world. We think that's going to save everything. That's the power of understanding and looking at the world in truth, cold, hard facts, right? That will save everything. We have the mindset to grasp that. That must be the golden ticket. That must be the thing to worship. And we do that as a group of people. Human beings do. We have shed away spirituality and replaced it with a new faith, a new religion, which is science. That to me says that there is this selfish kind of need to say the way that we look at the world, the way that we perceive it, is the one that matters. And through the minds of ourselves, collectively, can we harness the power that is within this universe? That kind of coincides a lot with what the Titans thought. Well, we have the understanding to do this. We can use this. Science would tell you that if we could harness the power of the sun, then we'd use it as a source of energy. And you, like, just zoom out of that for a minute. That's a fucking stupid, weird thing to say. You know what I mean? That is very odd. To say that you deserve the power of the sun to harness with your technology. That's odd. That is a Titan thing. We're starting to see a shift among the peoples of mankind into that as well. This power that they were given, this Dume, this magical gift stolen from the Anaku, well, you see it through mankind, and they follow that same trend. To harness this world as our own. To seek the understanding of the beginning, like this document here. They're seeking what the world is, what the circle is, what everything is. The fractal understanding of everything that is within and without, as above, so below, you know, whatever you want to fucking think of it as. You're seeing them mirror this kind of self-idolization. And, I mean, at that point, you become the very threat. Mankind is choosing to be their own God. Now, there is some perversion from the Asuk society. The ones that are... God, I would imagine that you would think the Asuk as, and I don't mean anything by it, but the cardinals and the Pope and all that, whatever the fuck that's called, the Vatican and all that shit, whatever that group's called. That's kind of what the Asuk are. They're like these high cardinals of faith. In the Adric's Chantry, they attached onto it. You're seeing a perversion into that for the very reason because of Ake Beothuk and what he's trying to accomplish. Mankind, being his adopted race, will rise up and bring him life again, though they do not know. That would be kind of the biggest thing going on to mankind's understanding, like the philosophy of mankind. Where does man sit in the world? Man, in the book, is at the prefaces? How do you say that? Prefaces, right? You're at the fucking threshold barrier. You're at the point from which things can just change forever. Mankind finds himself in that in the year 1647. You see what is understood as the ascension of Freydin. Freydin being the bastion of mankind. Freydin being the chosen disciple of the Forgotten King, or so it is said. You see the accomplishments of the Edenian society, the mages within the Edenian society, and what they're able to understand when it comes to grasping of the afterplace. What is going on in the Abeco College is the unraveling of what truly is beyond us. And that's just something that's inherent in human beings in real life just as much as it is in this book. They're seeking to gain knowledge that is not of their own, it doesn't belong to them. mankind understanding what a universe is and what is within it is far beyond what he should ever understand, because the goal behind what he's trying to do is a goal of greed. You know, at the end of the day, that's what it really is. You know, you're seeking to harness energies from something that is not of your own volition. It's just, I mean, I can't really make it any clearer than that, like how that's greedy. To say that your race of people and their way of life is so correct that, like, we have a new way to do it. We found a better way to, like, just do what we're doing. You know, we're living a perversion already, but then we can perverse it even more to make it feel okay. I mean, that's a fucking statement if I've ever heard one about the last fucking few years of the world's, like, fucking the bullshit of the world. If I believe hard enough, it'll be real. Because I'll change the way everything is, you know? That's a whole other thing. Mankind is grabbing onto a new understanding. So, okay, with that being said, where does the whisper have to play in all this? What does the whisper have to do with any of this stuff? So, the whisper would have been the true understanding of mankind. It would have been, and it should be. That's where Eris comes in. That's where his kind of, like, role to play will kind of play out. That is not something that is believed by mankind anymore because of the Asuka society, which really got their hands in Edenian society, I would say, judging by how it looks, in the 1000s. So about 600 years ago is when the Asuk really kind of were honing in and shifting mankind away from the whisper. Well, why is that? The whisper goes against everything that, you know, secretly Aik wants. The whisper is the one that's truly helping the Forgotten King. Aik's not. Aik's the one that's trying to hinder the Forgotten King. He's the one causing the issues. So you're going to see a walking away from in mankind's understanding. You know, they look at this, and this understanding is, they're close to finding answers here. But the whisper is looked at as the true enemy. Fear the darkness. Fear the being that we cannot understand. That is the whisper. The one that made Ravian and Eclectus and Theseus, made them go mad. It is looked at as a madness, but the whisper is true knowledge. True knowledge. Not synthetic knowledge, not knowledge that we grasp with our minds based on studies and research. This is knowledge that is given by the truth of the world, and that is death. That's what the whisper is. My kind of looking at how the world is nowadays, how we're afraid of death. We seem to be getting farther and farther away from it. Like I think I've said before in these videos, like we don't see bodies in the streets anymore. You know, we thought the pandemic was this horrible thing, and how many people really die from it? You know what I mean? Like, who knows what really is going on? That's not this channel, you know. But my point is, there is something that's kind of dividing us between life and death. We seek immortality. We seek to live longer. We seek to grow farther, to go on other planets. I made this point on videos before too. It's like, to go on other planets, even though this is a fucked up experiment here. Let's take that other places. Let's take this virus all around the fucking galaxy. Very stupid. Very, very greedy and stupid. Just a small-minded kind of thing. That's what mankind seeks. Now, because of that, I see a fear of death. We all fear death. It's going to happen to us, though. And the fucking universe will die. That'll just kind of get to a point, I forgot what the theories are, until it, I don't know, something about it shrinks down and then it does it again or something. I don't know. But it just, as a point, everything dies. Every fucking thing. That means this place is meant to. If it all does it, then it's meant to. So, why prolong life when you're meant to die? You live it as you're supposed to, and it will choose you when needed. Like, I don't know why we can't grasp that. You know? That just, I don't know. I guess that just is what confuses me with how people are. Taking care of things that, I don't know, whatever. That's just something that I will never get. But that to me is the fear of the whisper. And the whisper is true knowledge. Mankind was on its path to that in the years of the 1000s. It says he died in 1100, so we're just going to say early 1000s. You know, within the first 100 years after the year 1000 is when we start to see shit shifting because of ache. Ache's a perversion of all that. Ache is the scientific method of life. Now, here's something that we'll see where it's placed in this timeline. I've read this before. Reality being the most almighty of the elder beasts, who twist and play with what mortals would call time. In the realm outside of the circle they wait, those ancient beings that consume our perceptions. They cast a fog on the ideas we would try and form around a place, only pretending to be full of rich. Wow. Only pretending to be full and rich of visuals. Contrast to light, it was dark, for that was how the Titans found it. One such being that was called Mother, or as it was called by what we would understand as Anaku. The Titans came to the realm of life and threw images on what was already beyond. Now Mother was merely one of the beasts. It was not necessarily the strongest. She would have the urchins of Anaku attached onto her in the vast void. Some would say the realm of life is this realm of darkness, for that was how the whisper grew. It would eventually curse all who inhabit. When one understands the plight of the Titans, the banishment of the Aeon, the doom of mankind, this will always be caused by the lingering truth that the realm of life was not meant for who inhabit it now. Mankind will never truly understand this. To me, as I'm reading it, it sounds like an after document. It sounds like an Asok thing. It sounds like, yeah, see, like that place, that scary place, that's got the whisper, and it cursed everything. It made everything bad. It's the understanding that death, see how that's bad. We can prevent that. It kind of falls in line with what the Anaku try to believe as well. That seeking everlasting life is the key to everything. If we can stop dying, we've solved it. We have world peace, right? Which is blasphemous to really say, but there are belief systems out there of that. Alone it would, okay, what did I read? Yeah. Alone in the dark they would hang. It was a place of vast knowledge. This was really what the Titans sought. Do not let those Anaku elders fool you. The Titans are not altruistic beings that gave purpose to the Anaku. They brought damnation upon the non-mortal realm. In their hope, it was twisted, a thought, one that was so damaging, one that will follow all that are born next. Why? That very word uttered will forever bring doom. Never will the answer be found. Still quiet sleeping beasts that when awoken have brought fear to the hearts of man and May. We only know these beasts as the inevitable truth, reality. This is the philosophy of mankind. Post Asok. Asokifying, I don't know. Like, post basically saying this is the adopted concept of what mankind and how they view everything. At one point, I read in this one, the understanding at the beginning, they were starting to see that there's a greater truth in all of this, and there was a pursuit of knowledge. But what was behind that pursuit of knowledge was more, I wouldn't say childlike, but more, there was a spiritual connection to it still. It was treated more as a religious thing than it was a scientific understanding, and then you see this document about reality being the almighty of the elder beasts. Now you're starting to see this method of like, not only the tool being used against mankind, but mankind's understanding going forward that there is something to fear. That life is not a place we seek, but a place we seek to flee from. And in that fleeing is death. But that death is a bad thing. At one point we wanted to leave and go to the circle and to ascend. Now it's not so much the story. Again, Theosophic society has a big role to play in that, but what does that say about the philosophy of mankind and how they view themselves in the world? It seems quite obvious, they are cursed beings at the whim of the Titans, at the whim of the aeonic kind of beings. In some sense, it's helping them kind of get away from the truth. And the outlaw of thinking of the whisper. For that, that's the reason why Theseus, Eclectus, Ravian, Neopak were all killed. Well, Theseus died of an old age, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a reason why his son and grandson was killed. And why they were cursed. Not only because of their long lives, which is a strange happenstance, but because of their preaching of the whisper's word. The whisper acts through them. The whisper was cursed. He is a bad thing. But that's what we'll always think. The story will be up to Eris to discern what is good and what is bad. Is man's pursuit honest? Is what the Asuk doing, what that they are doing, at the behest of their lord Aik Beovac, is that correct? Aik's trying to save them. Is he? The Anaku want to destroy man, not destroy them, but fade them from the world. Is that correct? Are they saving them? Mankind finds himself in a situation where truth is shrouded in mystery. And so what is mankind's, what is their placement in the world? That right there, there's a lot of distrust. There's a lot of division, Tantorum and Adrana, that needs to be united. Oh, look at that. It's interesting that Aik Beovac wants that. So you can see, how, he might be doing good. It's hard to say until you progress into the story. Who is the good guy here? What is going on through the eyes of Beovac, through the eyes of the Anaku, through the eyes of King Vesemir in the south, or Harajo Kirko? Who has the best, what would I word this? Who has the best intention of mankind? Mankind's philosophy can go any way, but it seems to be falling away from true religion. And within that is the understanding that death can be stopped at some point. And to me, right there, that shows that a dark being that goes against the natural law of the universe is at work here. So obviously the whisper is not the devil, as much as it's being said that it is, because the whisper is literally going with the law of the universe, that what shall be born shall die. And to me, that is the philosophy of mankind.